Welcome back to the American Academy of Optometry's Leadership Podcast. My name is Alissa Coyne, and today's topic is going to be the journey to becoming Academy's president as part of the Top 100 Leaders series. With me today is Dr. Jeff Walline. Dr. Walline is the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs and Distinguished Professor at The Ohio State University College of Optometry and the 2025-2026 American Academy of Optometry President. Dr. Walline, thanks so much for spending time with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
How's Boston so far for you?
Fantastic. I had my lobster roll within minutes of arrival, and everything's good from there.
Excellent. What are you most looking forward to here in Boston this year?
Getting to see friends, of course. You know, I think there's over 7,500, probably over 7,700 people at this meeting. So a couple of them I know, and so it's going to be great catching up with people. It's going to be great, helping lead the profession and where we're going. But what I'm really excited about is the science that we're going to be providing for our educators, for our profession, and basically to make patient care better ultimately.
One of my favorite things about Academy is the top-notch science that's always put out there. It's fresh, it's new, it's innovative. Tell me a little bit about how you became interested in leadership, and more specifically, leadership within the Academy.
I honestly don't remember how I became interested in leadership. I think it was just kind of innate, to be perfectly honest. It's always something that I've sought. So as a middle school kid, I was class president or something like that. In high school, I think I did the same thing. So it wasn't anything that ever all of a sudden there was an event that made me think, ooh, leadership is the place to be. I'm not going to say that I'm a natural leader. I don't think that's what it is. It's just that I had the passion for it from a very early time. And so maybe it's because I'm a control freak. Maybe it's because I'm just passionate about different things and I kind of want to help lead people and follow my passion. Whatever it is, I don't even know, to be perfectly honest, but it's just something I've always thought.
That's excellent, especially passion for optometry, passion for the profession, moving it forward. As part of that, other than passion, is there another trait that you identify that you value as a leader?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that people, besides their passion, they've got to get people to understand their passion. So the ability to explain what it is or what the reason is that they're passionate for it, so that other people can understand sort of why they feel that way. And hopefully that will help them find the same passion, and then we can all work together to come to solutions or do whatever we need to do ultimately. I think that communication is really important.
In finding that passion and discovering other traits and characteristics in their own selves, do you have any recommendations as far as where they might be able to obtain that?
I think by far the best way to figure out who you are as a leader is by watching other leaders. And it doesn't have to be the president of the American Academy of Optometry or the president of the American Optometric Association or the president of ASCO. It can be somebody leading a staff meeting. What do they do well in that staff meeting that really makes this meeting function? What do they do well to get people to understand what they're saying and what they're doing? How do they make the message simple and effective? But you should also be looking at, how is that person not effective? What do I want to avoid as a leader? And ultimately, then you figure out what's the best things that you can do, and will help you become the best leader possible.
Is there a specific time that you can give an example of that was a challenge for you in being a leader, and what was learned from that specific challenge?
Yeah, I would say, I led a group of people, and not necessarily coming in as a leader with this group of people, but this group of people sort of became worried about the day-to-day and about the small, minute details. And what I wanted to impart to them was, we are really here for the strategic thinking and the big discussions. And that's not something that you can just say, hey, we need to have big discussions, and then it automatically happens. It's something that I'm still struggling to try and get that to become part of the lexicon, but I think and it's becoming less and less of a struggle and more natural. And I think we all see that it's more fun, to be perfectly honest. Getting to think about the strategy of how we want to move forward is way more fun and interesting than the details of how it's going to happen. And so that's, I think, been a challenge that I've been working on, and I think we're getting there. I think we're succeeding.
That's great. Also, kind of as a segue into that, is there some way as a leader that you can still lead by example, but also avoid being like a micromanager? Or how do you end up obtaining that?
Yeah, to me, the number one thing that everybody has to remember as a leader is it's not about you, it's about the people that you're leading. And your goal should be to make them the best versions of themselves, because that will ultimately make you the best leader possible. So, I had the opportunity to become acting dean, and one of the first things I realized is my goal is not to show what my power is or do anything like that. It is to help people become the best versions of themselves. So find opportunities for them, give them opportunities, give them the ability to take part in these opportunities. That's really the way that we become the best leaders, is by enabling others.
That is such a valuable response. Something I always think about is, if you don't know your own strength, as a leader, helping them identify their strength and or pushing them to identify their strength, and then utilizing that strength to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
That almost everyone has a responsible goal or something that they can work towards, that they and of themselves can work with the entire group towards achieving that goal. But it's helping them identify of what is their strength and then finding the right spot for them.
Yeah, and honestly, it helps make big goals more achievable, because you as a single person can't achieve all the goals that you want to do. It's a group of people who does it. So enabling them to do that makes you look better, because you get a lot more accomplished.
Give me a little bit of your thoughts on the importance of mentorship, both acting as a mentor and seeking out mentors.
Yeah, well, to be perfectly honest, I think I had the best mentor ever, and that was Carla Zadnick. I still have the best mentor ever. And what I realized that she was doing was exactly as I was saying, so I patterned myself off of her, to be perfectly honest, and that is, she gave me a lot of opportunities, and I made sure that I took advantage of those opportunities. And I really think that that's what's gotten me to where I'm at today, is by watching her, seeing what she does. She would always say, never say no. Say yes to everything that makes sense for you, and then pour yourself into it. Make sure that you don't just passively take advantage of those kinds of things, but actively take advantage of those kinds of opportunities. She's who inspired me. I would love to be the mentor that she is. I just don't have it in me, to be perfectly honest. I don't think I'm all that good of a mentor ultimately, but it's something that I constantly work on. But one of the things that I've found is everybody who might be looking up to you as a mentor has different needs. And so you have to change your style according to their needs. And I think that is ultimately really important. I'll give you an example. Students. If I have a master's student, one student might want to meet with me every week on a scheduled basis. The other student might be able to be way more independent and free. So one of them will just say, hey, when you have a question, come to me. The other one will say, why don't we make a scheduled meeting every week? And so you have to be flexible and help them reach their full potential by doing it in the way they can do it best.
Excellent. What is the best leadership advice, or what is the best leadership lesson that you've learned outside of optometry?
To be perfectly honest, I don't think I have any leadership opportunities outside of optometry, because optometry is my life.
Yes.
And I'm not ashamed of that at all. A lot of people, say, oh, I have work and my personal life, which are very, very separate. Mine are intertwined in one and the same. And I don't think of work as going to work. I think of work as continuing to have fun. And I try to intertwine them intentionally. When I'm at the Academy meeting, it's work, but I'm having a blast.
Sure.
I really am. And so that's kind of ultimately where I think we do the best. And the advice I have for people is sort of have fun doing what you do, follow your passions, and it will, nothing will seem difficult.
It's a true gift when you have a passion and you get to practice that passion almost every single day, day in and day out, that it just, again, makes your profession fun. It makes your life fun. It makes your career fun when you get to be part of that and also pass that on to other individuals. It's infectious, especially for either new practitioners, students, and being able to see that it just doesn't have to be the daily grind of it, and enjoying what you do and providing care in all different locations and environments.
Yeah, the thing that excites me the most, I think I've had 20 master's students, 20 plus master's students, is when I see them out there being leaders themselves. And they're the president of the Michigan Optometric Association. They are a faculty member and doing administration, and they're in their clinical practice, leading their clinical practice, and that's when I get really excited. And it's great to celebrate their successes, and it's what ultimately makes mentorship rewarding.
Kind of going back to those individuals that might be in a private practice situation, because so many times we think of leaders as being very much in different organizations, especially on a national level. But breaking it down to that environment, do you have any advice and or recommendations of even how to appropriately run that meeting and or interact with their employees to be a good leader in that situation?
Yeah, actually at Ohio State, we try to train our students to become leaders, but again, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be the president of the American Optometric Association. You can be the doctor in your office that's leading that staff meeting, with everybody. And I think everybody just has to play to their strengths. So figure out what your strengths are. Are your strengths imparting your passion, or are your strengths creating the standard operating procedures that allows everybody to have some freedom, but with some guidance along the way? Everybody's different, and you have to lead differently for everybody as well. So, I think it's just sort of ultimately figuring out how best you can lead so that you can become the best leader.
Excellent. We're going to finish up this discussion here with some rapid fire questions. You ready for these?
No.
All right. What leader or leaders have you looked up to during your career? I know that you obviously have a soft spot for Dr. Carla Zadnik. Is there anyone else that you want to add to that list?
Yeah, Dr. Carla Zadnik and Dr. Don Muti have been, my inspirations throughout my career, leading me through science into leadership and passion and excitement for teaching and excitement for mentoring. They're the ones that I watch and study and follow and try to become who they are ultimately. It's, they're everything to me. And I did it without even crying.
Yes.
That was really tough. But
Applause on that one. Good job. What are the best ways to lead a team through a significant time of change?
The best way to lead a team through a significant time of change is transparency. You've got to tell them why this change is necessary and how it will ultimately benefit people so that they can understand the reasoning for it.
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of transparency, even sometimes when that can be the most difficult type of communication and or saying as a big change is coming, because change is sometimes very difficult.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's inevitable. It's inevitable.
Yep.
If any of our listeners could change one thing about how they communicate to more effectively lead their teams, what would you recommend?
I would recommend probably not doing as I'm doing. I tend to be going on and on and on. Have short, quick messages that people can hear and understand and move with and follow. I really think that's the secret to success, is having your brief message that's powerful and moving and can help people align.
Yes, on the same page, action items,
Yep.
making sure that we're all working towards that similar goal with our strengths associated with it.
Yep.
And for you yourself, what would you list as your strongest leadership trait, and how's that helped you in your career?
I think it's, I'm always willing to go to the next step. So I can't say I never get tired, but I always try to move on to the next thing with as much energy as the last thing. And I'm always willing to put more work into it because it's not work to me. It's fun. So, I think it's my work ethic, I think.
Dr. Walline, thanks so much for taking the time to spend with us here at Academy and talking about your leadership, especially to becoming the president. We appreciate it immensely.
Of course, thank you so much.
So good
Appreciate
to see
it.
you.
Yeah.
To our listeners, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next month on the Leadership Podcast.